Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I will be streaming on my secondary channel, RTU Streams. There's a link below in the description. We should have a lot of fun. Come check it out. Skip it up and that up. So yesterday I had a video talking about PlayStation 5 specs that were revealed, pricing, so on and so forth. It was from an anonymous user on Pastebin, so take those with a huge grain of salt. And look, it's that time, man. You're going to see a bunch of rumor videos from me, RGT85, Spawnwave Media, Dreamcast guys, so on and so forth. It's on the eve of new consoles. Rumors are going to be abound, and videos about the rumors are going to be abound, so brace yourselves. But today, these ain't rumors. What I'm about to tell you is coming from Mark Cerny, who's the lead architect over at PlayStation. He's designing the PlayStation 5, and he was talking to Wired Magazine in an interview, and he reveals quite a bit. So I'm going to read it to you, then we'll discuss it, because it's really interesting, and he even debunks some stuff out there, too. That were rumors. So let's get into it. If you want to check out more in this too, I'll have the Siliconera article below in the description if you want to read. So according to Cerny, the key question is whether console adds another layer to the sorts of experiences you already have access to, or if it allows for fundamental changes in what a game can be. According to Cerny, the next-gen console will not release in 2019, so anyone saying that can stop saying that now. However, a number of studios have been working with it, and Sony recently accelerated its deployment of dev kits in order to provide game creators with time to adjust its capabilities. Now, this is big news too. This is another rumor that's going to be debunked, is people were saying that the next Xbox was going to use the third generation Ryzen chips and the PlayStation 5 was going to use the second generation, the Zen Plus chips. That's the one I just put in that rig I showed you that's with a handle, kind of looks like a GameCube. I put the Ryzen 7 2700X in there. No, they're using Gen 3 just like their competitor for Microsoft, and this is what Mark Cerny says about that. Sony's next-gen console will have an AMD chip based on the third generation of AMD's Ryzen line with 8 cores of the company's new 7nm Zen 2 microarchitecture. So everyone's saying that the chip in the PlayStation 5, that's going to be a generation behind the next Xbox. We could put that rumor to rest too. This is coming from Mark Cerny himself. He's the lead architect behind the PS5. I don't really think what he's saying is a rumor. As for the GPU, it is a custom variant of Radeon's Navi family, or Navi family. It'll support ray tracing, a technique that models the travel of light to simulate complex interactions in 3D environments. That's what NVIDIA, since late last year, hasn't shut up about. That's what's in their new RTX cards. And apparently the AMD chips inside the next-gen consoles are going to support ray tracing as well. Have a feeling that's going to be a real big thing, especially when the next-gen consoles come around, because you're going to have the GPUs and computers capable of ray tracing and the next-gen consoles capable of ray tracing. So ray tracing is going to be improved. The cards are going to get more efficient, especially due to the fact that consoles now support ray tracing, so that's a good thing, even if you're just a PC gamer and don't care about next-gen consoles. The immediate effects of ray tracing mostly goes into the visual side of things, as it mimics the way light bounces from object to object in a scene, making it easier to more accurately render reflective surfaces and refractions through glass or liquid. And we saw that again when NVIDIA was showing off their RTX cards with Battlefield 5. You would see reflections of explosions in puddles, and they would show with RTX off, where you would see the light change in the puddle, but it wasn't as realistic, things like that. That's what he's talking about. Now, Mark Cerny continues with ray tracing. If you wanted to run tests to see if the player can hear certain audio sources or if the enemies can hear the player's footsteps, ray tracing is useful for that. It's all the same thing as taking a ray through the environment. Now, this is one thing that Cerny touches on that is interesting. He's saying that they're improving the audio for the PlayStation 5. As a gamer, it's been a little bit of a frustration that audio did not change between the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. With the next console, the dream is to show how dramatically different the audio experience can be when we apply significant amounts of hardware horsepower to it. And I'm guessing what they mean is they'll do more things with like 3D audio effects, so you could really rely on the audio to maybe know where an enemy is, where you hear footsteps and things like that. Especially if you have a surround sound, that'll be very beneficial. Unfortunately, probably, unless there's something I'm missing from what Cerny says, if you just have stereo speakers, you're not really going to notice a difference. But if you have surround sound, it's going to be hugely beneficial to you. It already kind of happens now, but if you have surround sound in a multiplayer game, especially with next-gen consoles, if they really improve the audio with these AMD custom chips, you may have a competitive advantage having a good surround sound system. Just something to think about. So Cerny talks about the huge speed difference in hard drives. More than likely, he actually confirms later on it's going to be an SSD inside of the PlayStation 5. So in the PS4 Pro with 2018 Spider-Man, which is a great game, to fast travel in that game took 15 seconds. On a PS5 dev kit, that same fast travel sequence took 0.8 seconds. 0.8 seconds, not even a second. And on a PS4 Pro, it takes 15 seconds. That's a little bit of a difference. And he continues on to say the limitations of the PS4 and PS4 Pro. No matter how powered up you get as Spider-Man, you could never get any faster than this because that's simply how fast we can get the data off the hard drive. Saying that, look, we can't stream the data off the hard drive any quicker, especially because it's a 2.5-inch mechanical drive. There's nothing really that we can do. It just is what it is. Now, during the demonstration, Cerny paused the action to prove that the surrounding environment remained crisp. While the demonstration was used with a 4K TV, the next-gen console will support 8K graphics. Now, I still think what even Cerny means here is that they're going to do like 8K upscaling. So if you get a Samsung 8K TV, the game will be rendered natively in 4K or maybe even a lower resolution, because let's face it, even high-end graphics cards now, sometimes games, if you want to max them out, they gotta, run at sub 4K to run properly. I think the same. You're not going to get games even on a $500 console to run natively in 8K. It's just not happening. So what I think they mean is that they can upscale it. The PlayStation 5 will be able to output 8K. So if you want to watch a movie in 8K or you want to upscale a game to 8K, you can. But I'd be shocked, even if few and far between, unless it's like a basic sports game or something like that, that it's actually going to be rendered in native 8K. If any game will be rendered in native 8K at all. Could be wrong, but I'm 99.9% sure that I'm not. Now, continuing on, Sony wouldn't share details about the SSD, including its makers and whether it utilizes the new PCI 4.0 standard, but Cerny says it has raw bandwidth higher than any SSD available for PCs. That's exciting, man, because less load times, the better. And if Sony has some tech in there that possibly the next Xbox does not, and they have a one-up on loading times, that could be a huge selling point for them, even though I'm pretty sure the next Xbox will have the same kind of speeds with their SSDs, because I'm sure they're going to have an SSD as well. They're not going to have Sony have a solid-state drive and they're still rocking a mechanical drive in the next Xbox, but who knows, but I highly doubt it. Mark Cerny continues on about the SSD, showing how important the solid-state drive is to the PlayStation 5 experience. This is what he says. The raw speed is important, but so are the details of the I/O input-output mechanisms and the software stack that we put on top of them. I got a PlayStation 4 Pro, and then I put in an SSD that cost as much as the PlayStation 4 Pro. It might be 1/3 faster, which means that if there's other bottlenecks in the hardware, the processor, other parts of the architecture of the hardware, you could have the fastest SSD in the world. If the hardware can't take advantage of it, you're not going to really get the true benefits of it. If you put an SSD on a Pentium 4, it may improve load time somewhat, but not that much because the processor is the bottleneck. If you actually have a Pentium 4 that has a motherboard with a SATA port on it, which towards the later part of their lives they did, but even if you put an SSD on there, ain't gonna do that much because, again, the hardware, the processor, and other things on that motherboard are bottlenecks. Now, no other information like pricing, release date, so on and so forth was revealed about the PlayStation 5, but this one is huge. I'm showing you the man boobs. That's how huge it is. The PlayStation 5 will be fully backwards compatible with the PS4. There's been huge rumors about it, but now we know that it's confirmed that the PlayStation 5 will be backwards compatible with the PS4, which I assume because they're going to be the same exact architecture, just more powerful hardware in the PS5. So there it is, man. This is coming from Mark Cerny. This isn't a random guy on Pastebin. This isn't some random person who says they were a former developer for Sony that won't give away any of their credentials. This is Mark Cerny himself talking about specs and features of the PlayStation 5. Now, does it mean that everything we heard yesterday from that random Pastebin poster is invalid? No, I actually believe the price. I do believe that the PlayStation 5 will be $500. I do believe Sony's going to double down on VR, and there's going to be possibly a camera on the next DualShock 5, the DualShock 5 controller. Now, do I believe that they'll have a 2 terabyte SSD in there? Man, that may, if they make things pricey, but that may be where they eat some of the cost, and they're going to sell the PlayStation 5 at $100 loss, even if they sell it at $500. Maybe that's where they're going to do it, because they can't put a 1 terabyte SSD in the PlayStation 5. The games are going to be too big. At that point, you'll be able to put 2 or 3 games on there. It would be ridiculous. It would be almost as bad, if not as bad, as when Nintendo launched the Switch with only 32 gigabytes of internal storage. That's what I would equate it to if they give a 1 terabyte SSD in there. So it doesn't make what we heard yesterday from that random Pastebin poster seem invalid. Everything there still seems pretty believable, like an upgraded version of PSN, everything else that I mentioned yesterday. I kind of buy that too, even with what Mark Cerny said. So now we have more interesting information out there, and we could just forget about any next-gen consoles coming in 2019, and now we can wait till 2020. I think that's when we will see next-gen consoles, at least one of them anyway. Maybe Microsoft will wait till 2021. This is Rich of Review Tech USA signing out. Have a good one. Hey everybody, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you click the subscribe button. Also click the bell next to it to be notified of all of my uploads. And if you want to come check out my live streams, I have a second YouTube channel called RTU Streams, where I'll be streaming there quite a bit starting in April. I'll have a link to that below in the description as well. Thank you for the continued support, and I'll see all of you in the next video.